Here.
Grabbing it would be,
degrees of the thermometer of remote.
Bruce, I need another minute just to get
Something to see.
No one should be standing in my house.
Except, yeah, you have to stand.
Her house, I have to stand.
You have to stand.
Let's get comfortable.
You mean a video of this?
I don't know, yeah, I think yes. Yes.
Those cities.
And this is impressive, I forgot to bring my makeup.
We
can do some Photoshop of it after.
Diana's videoing it, and she's really helpful.
Poetry. Well, that's.
I thought it had something to do with breakfast.
The temperature in degrees of the thermometer of Rimmel.
Yeah.
The same that.
We will be wrapped.
Oh, wait, let me.
Okay. Waiting for my beloved wife. Sit down, there she is. Okay. Mom? Hi, Mom. Okay, great. Thank you again. Well, I just, you all know me, and you know that it's my way of, in order to express myself, I have to speak. And as you know.
Can you go a little louder for us?
Yes, I can, sure. For which people? The people over 40? Yes, I can. So let me just launch. So I recently heard a comedian tell a story. He said, I flunked out of analogy school. That's like, I can't think of anything. I flunked out of analogy school. So that's how I feel also. I don't have a good analogy of who David is to me, because he was so many people. He was my neighbor, my friend, my mentor, my role model, my big brother, my fitness coach, my arch rival on the field in the battle of risk. I don't know how long it would have taken for us to find each other, and it was possible it wouldn't have even happened, because age remains one of the strongest bases of friendship, and he had a good 15 years on me. But thank God, really, thank God, that we moved onto the same cul-de-sac that the Wirtschafters moved in on only a few months earlier. And David and Barbara, though neither native Southerners, still carried the warmth and hospitality from their most recent home in Alabama, and we were the immediate beneficiaries. Despite the age difference, David had just enough immaturity to relate to me. We became close quickly. Both physicians, both not entirely comfortable Bali Tshuva, both fascinated with history, both of us fathers of boys, and later, more challengingly, fathers of girls. There's a chronology and there are stories, and I could say a lot about the intertwined lives of the Greenfields and the Wirtschafters. But tonight we are here because we all loved and respected David, and we each had our own special relationship with him, and with Barbara, and with Deborah, who organized tonight's Shloshim, and I'm hopeful that by sharing who David was to me, it will help illuminate who he was to each of us, together and uniquely. So I'll start with Charles Menard. Of all the things that cemented the relationship, it may have been Charles Menard who really catalyzed everything. The map you are holding, or looking at, this map was designed by Monsieur Menard, and it depicts the tragic defeat of Napoleon's troops as they marched to Moscow and straggled back, more than 400,000 soldiers starting and only 10,000 returning. David had this map in his house, and maybe one of the most famous maps ever drawn, because of its brilliantly concise depiction on one page of such a turning point in military history. And as famous as it is, I had never seen it before. And David's delight in sharing it with me and his delight in my delight, well, the nerd bromance began there and then. And that was one aspect of David. The intellectual who thought in systems, who had to understand things, and who then had the clarity to explain them. As a physician in a completely different area of medicine, he gave me tips on how to improve my fund of medical knowledge. And he, through analogy, expanded my skills on how to lead an organization. When I wanted to buy a used car for my eldest son, David looked much further into the future and advised me, no, buy a new and safer one. And saw how it could be passed from child to child. And that car was in the family from 1998 to 2019. For years, David, the passionate marathoner, waited for me to see the light. And when I finally asked him to help improve my fitness, the same approach he employed in all his professional and intellectual endeavors was unleashed on his new project to make me a runner. You can't improve things unless you measure them. I was given a couple articles, later a book, told to get a watch, and off we went to the track several times at Valley College. And I was an avid student, so as Anne shook her head, I thought you were going to run. Why are you reading articles? I studiously ran my laps, recorded my times, warmed up and cooled down properly, and of course checked in with my proud coach. As over the next few years, I ran a few 5Ks, then 10Ks, and then half marathon. But let me stop here in my depiction of David as a thoughtful and systematic intellect, because the basis of our relationship was not his brain, but his heart. Although David phrased it differently, I heard a rabbi once ask, how do you spell love? T-I-M-E. As I've already described to you, David had time for all the green fields. There also wasn't a month that Barbara and David didn't have a Shabbos meal with us, usually at their house. Who taught at least one of my sons to ride a bicycle? But I gave up. David. Who picked up my grandparents after the earthquake when I had to go to the hospital and cover the patients there? That would be David. I practiced this so many times I wouldn't cry. And who, by hoisting my kids in the air, transformed the word Republican from an epithet to something kinder? David again. And frankly, the many times David and Barbara were available to us, and especially our children, with their wisdom and their thoughtfulness and their joie de vivre, blessed us and our community greatly. And now, David was not perfect. He did not always win the Friday night game of Risk. His puns could be cringy. His mastery of Hebrew was wanting. He could occasionally go off topic. He even once in a while merited that school principal glare from Barbara at the dinner table. But because of David Wirtschafter, I am a better person than I would have otherwise been. He taught me, through words and through deeds, to be a better doctor, a more patient leader, to look further into the future, to be a more respectful husband and a more attentive father, to cherish the gifts that Hashem gives us, and to accept, when there's no alternative, that not everything's going to go well. The last two times we spoke was so exemplary of who David was that I have to conclude with those stories. When I last saw him, it was the weekend of Elisa's bat mitzvah in New Jersey. I guess that was the May before.
May 2022.
May 2022. Last time I saw David in person. We spoke one-on-one with your mother, with Barbara in the background, for about an hour. It was hard for him to speak, but he felt very impelled to clarify a misconception that I had had about my own father, based on something I said almost 20 years earlier. And even at that time of his frustration and ailing, it was very important to him that my relationship with my father, even posthumously, should not suffer. And then a few months later, he, via email, asked me to call him on a video chat. And David, the scientist, the man of facts and rationality, told me that his disease had progressed to the point that he would not be able to speak to me again. So here we are, 30 days after he was Nifter, to remember him with his daughter in the village where he spent the majority of his adult life. Thank you all for allowing me to express my sorrow and my love, and to honor his memory by sharing my experience of David with you. And thank you all for coming. And I don't know if, Deborah, if there's anything you want to say, I'm putting you on the spot if not, or if anybody else has any stories or recollections or feelings they want to share.
I just want to say thank you, really, for everyone coming. I know with each face that I see here, I see so many memories of each thing that my parents did or accomplished, or just felt the love from everyone in this community. And they really cherished their time. I think it was 21 years they were here in the valley, and they've taken those memories, and they always talk about the good old days in the valley with their friends and vacations up to Big Bear and having Shabbat meals and Rosh Hashanah meals. And one thing that I find that was unique about the valley is that my parents didn't have religious cousins, and many of us didn't either, or we didn't have family close by. And each of you became my parents' family. And I look at each of you and I say, oh, well, that person taught me this and this person taught me that. And I feel like you've all raised myself, my brothers, Nathan and Ari, and my beautiful children. And we're just so grateful that you're here. So thank you. It's hard to believe it's been 30 days. But my father he was tired. He was ready to go. And he made sure that I was there and Ari was there, and he had all of his children and a few of his grandchildren around him when he passed away. And we really got to say goodbye to him. And one thing that was nice is that we got to say goodbye to him over Shabbos. And Shabbos was a special time that he really had here with all of his friends, with all the different meals that we had together and times that we spent together. And I'm just grateful for all of that. So thank you for coming. I know it was hard to organize everybody, but we appreciate it, and thank you, Ann and Bruce, for hosting. It really meant a lot to me to be able to come home. So thank you.
Yes.
I mean,
Gary, yeah.
There's no way that I could match what Bruce said, but one thing, David was also a big brother to me.
I'll make sure to get you the video. Okay. Bye.
David was a big brother to me. A lot of what Bruce said, although we lived down that way, we didn't have the opportunity to be right around the corner here. But David taught me courage, clarity, thought, and I remember he'd say, now Gary, when you read the Wall Street Journal, the front page and the editorial page, skip all the stuff in between. Unfortunately, we've lost all of us. We've all lost people, friends, loved ones, parents, and others. With David, he's still alive to me. I like Bruce, I'm kind of emotional too. I just see David here. He's here. He's not somewhere else. We all loved him and we all experienced him. unfortunately, we have a great connection to Deborah. And Nathan and Ari, remember when they came from Alabama, we met them and, hello, sir. Yeah, who are you guys? But they were a product of their parents. Respect, discipline, clarity, good priorities in their lives. And that is the Wirtschafter legacy. And there's a grandson fighting in Gaza right now, helping the Jewish people. I called David on his birthday. I knew I couldn't talk to him, but I wanted, Barbara was next to him. And they couldn't take my call because Adam had called in from the front. And Barbara called me back, said, I really apologize for, what are you apologizing for? But that's Barbara and David. They were very, very, just so polite and so gracious. So David Wirtschafter's still alive. And that's how I want to keep in my mind. So thank you for being our friend.
So we were the next from family to move on to the block after the Greenfields. So basically, I can just say ditto to what Bruce said. All the same experience, with a couple little embellishments. The risk game was a really, really fun experience because it was a family experience and a family building experience. You know, it started out with, I think, Bruce, myself, Nathan, and David. And as our kids grew, we eventually let Ben in, we let Nati in. I think we got as far as letting Daniel in. You know, I'm not sure, but it was, you know, our send-off to David when they made Aliyah was his wonderful corncob pipe encased in plastic saying, we shall return. And I feel like Gary, you know, he's there, he will return. One anecdote that I do want to share, David and Barbara were the surrogate grandparents to our kids. Whenever we needed help or, you know, things came up, they were there. There was no questions asked. One evening, it was a Motzei Shabbos, and Lori couldn't be here tonight. Her father hadn't come over. He came over every Motzei Shabbos to watch the kids, and we were a little concerned. So I called David. I said, David, could you do me a favor? Can you come with me to Marina Del Rey? Because we're a little concerned about Lori's dad. He was at my front door in about 6 seconds. What happened afterwards, we got to Marina Del Rey, and I opened the door, and David just stood at the door, very quietly, very respectfully. He wanted me to have my space to deal with whatever I was gonna have to deal with. As soon as I found Lori's father, who was unconscious, I said, David, he's here, he's breathing. He immediately turned into the Vietnam War medic and was doing everything humanly possible. When the paramedics arrived, they told me that they were so comforted that David was there because his knowledge, his compassion, and just another set of really smart eyes and brains to help them with what they had to do. We wound up going to UCLA. Barbara was at a banquet and she came running over and said, do you want us to stay with you? And I said, I appreciate it, but there's not much to do right now because he was in pretty bad shape. But just who they were and what they did, Barbara continues to do in terms of chesed. Yeah, I've never seen anything like it, and you know, it just really provided a role model for me of, you know, what it means to be a friend and what it means to be a neighbor. You know, we watched each other's kids grow up. David also taught one of my kids how to ride the bike when I got frustrated. Ours too. We always enjoyed Shabbos because David was very particular. When he came over for Shabbos, whatever was served for the main course, David was personally cutting it and personally giving it to you, making sure you had exactly what you wanted. It was just like Bruce, we were there at least once every month and vice versa. So, Deborah, you have a proud legacy for you and your kids, and your mother and your brother Shev and Chama is with you, and we should only dance.
Any rebuttal at all on this?
Yeah, he was.
Yes, he would have walked out already.
I can actually clarify about the bike thing. I think David tried, but it was a tough case, so he gave it to Ari. And Ari finished up.
Okay, well, again, I guess Deborah wanted to thank us for coming, but I think we also want to thank you for organizing this. We needed this too. We need to say goodbye a little bit more. And so, thank you. Of course, I want to thank my wife for putting all this together. And, we have some strict rules here. I am not to eat too much, and there's still a lot of food there. So please,
You can
help
take
you.
home dessert.
Yeah, we can even do
For
that.
breakfast tomorrow.
Yeah, you can't put the soup in a bag, but anything else can go in a bag. So thank you again, and please.
Thank you.
No, we're